All you have to do is ask my father, who literally was shot in the Orangeburg Massacre, right? Who helped found SNCC, who marched with Marion Barry and Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King, and the list goes on and on and on. And he will tell you today that he feels like this country's at 1954. And so if you want to talk about somebody...
But that doesn't mean it is. Well, you said he feels that way. That's ridiculous. Boy, he's really, I mean, it's a good strategy. Like, while the Democrats are getting all this bad publicity, just shut up. He doesn't usually do something that smart.
It's like that scene.
Last time we covered Bill Maher calling out MSNBC hosts for their hypocrisy. Well, this time CNN's Bakari Sellers is under fire. You know, the guy who always brings up race when he's losing an argument? Yeah, him. His one-sided takes didn't stand a chance against Ben Shapiro, who completely dismantled his arguments. And trust me, it was both brutal and hilarious. I'm breaking it all down for you, so stick around. But before we jump in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, so you never miss a video like this.
Ben Shapiro's of the world. Yeah. These people who don't necessarily have the intellect to have honest discussions, but but yet they're able to become millionaires because they're actually just circulating and promulgating this.
I showed you that clip on purpose to set the stage for what happened when Ben Shapiro and Bakari Sellers went head-to-head on Bill Maher's show. In the clip you just saw, Sellers took a jab at Shapiro's intelligence, because apparently the award-winning Daily Wire host doesn't meet his so-called high intellectual standards. Bold move, right? But when they finally clashed on Maher's show, let's just say it, didn't take long for the audience to realize who was actually struggling to keep up. Take a listen.
Many confounds when it comes to these particular issues. And unless you remove the statistical confounds, you end up with trying to blame vague, shadowy figures like implicit bias, which are innately, insanely difficult, if not impossible, to measure.
I don't know what he did.
See what I mean about CNN? Ben Shapiro wasn't exactly speaking in code. He was just explaining that the race debate isn't as simple as some make it out to be. If you don't break it down properly, you end up blaming everything on vague, unprovable concepts like implicit bias, something about as measurable as a Bigfoot sighting. Where's the lie? The truth is, the conversation around race is far more nuanced than these media figures want to admit. But sure, let's just blame it all on some invisible force and call it a day. And yet, even after completely missing the point, Sellers still had the nerve to take shots at Shapiro. Well, let's see how he held up when Bill Maher decided to step in.
Well, all you have to do is ask my father, who literally was shot in the Orangeburg Massacre, right? Who helped found SNCC, who marched with Marion Barry and Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King, and the list goes on and on and on. And he will tell you today that he feels like this country's at 1954. And so if you want to talk about somebody...
But that doesn't mean it is. Well, you said he feels that way. That's ridiculous. It is. Come on.
Exactly. Ben Shapiro was simply saying we should focus on real issues of racism instead of getting lost in emotions. Because, let's be honest, feelings don't always match reality. Just because Bakari Sellers' father feels like America has gone back to the 1960s doesn't magically make it true. And credit where it's due, Bill Maher actually called that out. Surprised? Not really. The woke crowd has always prioritized emotions over facts and data. Case in point, these are the same people who tell us that you are whatever you feel you are. So if a black man suddenly feels like he's a white woman, congratulations, he's apparently a white woman now. This is the kind of nonsense they push. It's not about truth or logic. It's about advancing a narrative no matter how disconnected from reality it is. And the moment you dare to challenge it, you're labeled hateful, ignorant, or worse. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just sitting here wondering, since when did common sense become offensive?
I think the ridiculous notion is for either one of you all to have the audacity to believe that you understand what the experience is to be.
I have to object to that.
But you just said
he's really, I mean, it's a good strategy. Like, while the Democrats are getting all this bad publicity, just shut up. He doesn't usually do something that smart.
It's like that scene.
We can't see like you can. One is to be too close to something. And then sometimes you can't see it accurately either.
Bill Maher. The idea that you can't talk about racism unless you've personally experienced it is absurd. By that logic, no one could discuss poverty unless they've been homeless, or debate crime unless they've been mugged. And let's be real, just because someone has lived through something doesn't automatically make them the most objective voice on the issue. Being emotionally invested doesn't equal being right. That's just common sense. Every group has its own biases, which is exactly why open discussion is so important. But do race hustlers like Bakari Sellers, Joy Reid, and Sunny Hostin want that? Of course not. They don't promote honest conversations. They thrive on division. Instead of encouraging real dialogue, they push race-baiting narratives that stir resentment and keep people trapped in a victimhood mindset. Because, let's be honest, if racism wasn't the massive, unbeatable problem they claim it is, what would they even talk about on primetime TV? This isn't about progress. It's about power. The more they convince people they're oppressed, the more control they have. Meanwhile, real solutions get ignored, and the very people they claim to fight for are left in the same place as before.
I'm not too close to something. I am that.
I know.
And so, but what I am saying though is for you to discount my father's experience and say
I'm not discounting it,
and to say it was silly.
I'm not.
No, he was shot.
No,
Were
shit.
you shot?
No, but he's still alive. Like he's right here. Like
right, but the idea that if I were to say to you as a Jew that the experience of Jews in the United States today is worse than the experience of Jews in Europe in 1939, I would not be stating accurately.
Correct.
It's not true.
That's
and it's
right.
also not true to say that the experience of black people in America in 2024 is worse on a general level than the experience of black men in 1954 in Alabama. That's just crazy.
I think.
See what happens when race baiters rely on emotions instead of real arguments? The moment they go up against actual debaters like Ben Shapiro or sharp hosts like Bill Maher, they start stammering and falling apart, just like Bakari Sellers is doing here. When your entire stance is built on feelings rather than facts, even the slightest pushback makes it crumble. Take the 1960s, for example. Back then, racial injustice was painfully real. Black Americans were forced to live under Jim Crow laws, denied the right to vote through literacy tests and intimidation, and even risked their lives for simply demanding equality. Just look at the Selma March, where peaceful protesters were brutally beaten by police. Now fast forward to 2025. Black Americans hold high-ranking positions in government, business, and media. Laws banning racial discrimination are firmly in place, and diversity initiatives ensure representation across nearly every industry. Is racism completely gone? No. But is it even remotely the same as the 1960s? Not even close. Yet, people like Sellers act as if nothing has changed, recycling the same old oppression narrative to keep their influence alive. Because let's be real, if they admitted progress had been made, what would they even have left to talk about?
Really, I mean, it's a good strategy. Like, while the Democrats are getting all this bad publicity, just shut up. He doesn't usually do something that smart.
It's like that scene.
This perfectly sums up Bakari Sellers, just talking in circles at this point. No one is saying that life is perfect for Black and minority communities. There are still real injustices, racism included. But to claim that America has somehow regressed to the 1960s, that's about as believable as a velociraptor learning to open doors in Jurassic Park. Terrifyingly dumb and completely unrealistic. Here's what many people miss. Sellers' entire career, like that of Sunny Hostin and Don Lemon, is built on playing the victim. Their influence depends on convincing people that nothing has improved, that oppression is just as rampant as ever, and that they alone are the voices of the struggle. The moment someone challenges that narrative, especially with facts, they don't see it as a debate. They see it as a direct attack on their relevance. Because let's be real, if racial progress was openly acknowledged, what would they even talk about? They'd lose their TV slots, their book deals, and their carefully crafted image as truth tellers. That's why when someone like Ben Shapiro comes along and dismantles their arguments, they don't respond with facts. They lash out. Because their biggest fear isn't racism disappearing. It's people realizing that it's not 1965 anymore.
I thought about the conversations you and I have had, Whoopi, so many times about the co-opting of the word woke. And the fact that the right somehow has made it a dirty word. To be woke is a word that came out of the African American community, and it was about being acknowledging social justice inequities, acknowledging people suffering. It is not a bad thing to care about other people, to care about the sufferings of others, and to act upon it. And so it angers me when people are like, this woke stuff has got to go. That's telling me that you don't care about my lived experience. You don't care about the oppression of the LGBTQ community. You don't care about the oppression of the disabled. You don't care about the oppression of immigrants. You don't care about your fellow neighbor. And that is ungodly. That is not Christian.
Listening to these race hustlers is exhausting. Now they're whining about the term woke being co-opted, when, let's be real, they're the ones who twisted and ruined its original meaning. Once upon a time, being woke simply meant being aware of injustice, but they warped it into a toxic ideology that demands blind conformity, demonizes opposing views, and cancels anyone who dares push back. And now they're mad that the word has become a joke? Please. First off, we didn't even need the term woke to begin with. Thinking critically and caring about marginalized people should be a given. It's called basic human decency. No, trendy buzzword required. But of course, that's not enough for the woke mob. They don't just want awareness, they want control. And what's with their obsession with dragging Christianity into every debate, as if it's the only religion that speaks about justice and compassion? It's obvious why they do it. Christianity is an easy target, low-hanging fruit they can attack whenever they want, with zero consequences. Funny how they never go after certain other religions with the same energy. Wonder why that is?